Welcome to Flipping Miami, a podcast for those who want to learn real estate investing, do more, and make more. Now, here is your host, Raul Bolufe.
Yo, welcome to Flipping Miami by Raul Bolufe. And today I have a good friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Hunter Hayden from Jacksonville. And before we get into kind of like starting the interview and just have a conversation about real estate and what he's up to, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about like how he started, what similarities there are between people who start businesses and people who start in real estate, and kind of like the flow of the life cycle and what they end up doing and what they end up doing daily, travel, lifestyle stuff. So if that stuff interests you, if like you want to learn, what top level investors are doing as far as wholesale, as far as future big deals, syndication, things like that, this will be a good episode for you. And thank you guys for listening. You could, if this is stuff you like, check us out or subscribe to our iTunes or YouTube, all that stuff. You can check it out there. Also, website, raulbolufe.com. Now, let's get into my man, Hunter Hayden, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite. I always love talking to you and seeing what's going on in Miami and what you and Lewis are up to.
Yeah, usually no good. Usually if we're speaking, it's no good. But now we're going to make productivity happen out of here.
I love it.
But yeah, bro. So let's jump into it. I like to start things a little differently usually. And Hunter's he's got a wholesaling business in Jacksonville. He's doing some commercial stuff. Just before we got on, he told me he was starting a podcast that he didn't want to mention, but I just did.
Yeah.
And but before we get into all that, I want to know, like, I don't think I have ever asked you this even on a friendship basis. Like, who was Hunter in high school? Like, what kind of like kid were you? Like, let's say sophomore year. Were you shy? Who were you back then? If we would have met.
Yeah, man. I've actually never had anyone ask me that, Raul. So appreciate that one. No, that's a good question, because that's kind of like where you start really molding into your personality and kind of taking steps and decisions for yourself that are, I guess, a little more adult, right? Because you're looking at what's next after 18. So I got 2 years left. Yeah. So I was pretty much a shy kid, very reserved growing up. I grew up playing golf and being around adults more often than kids. So I kind of learned that whole role of just kind of listen and speak when spoken to, not in a bad way, right? Just in a respectful way. So I kind of was just this shy guy. My mom grew up in an English family, so it was very, proper. And so I kind of grew up that way. And I think about 16 or 17, I decided to just stop being the shy guy, because I was about to go out into the world and I was going to have to go make things happen. Right. So yeah, man, like my junior year, I just kind of just started befriending everybody I could, no matter what. I was on the golf team, but if they were playing football or baseball player or, the valedictorian, I was just trying to network as much as possible. And then I wouldn't say I became famous, but eventually I became known, right? And before I wasn't.
So what got you to decide? Was it a specific moment, or just you're man, I'm tired of being no one knows me, I'm tired of that? Or was it a moment that you can kind of remember?
I don't know, man. I just think I was preparing myself to go do something really cool, something that was going to be uncomfortable, and it'd be better to get uncomfortable where I was at, with at least some, understanding of what I'm up against, who I'm talking to, or knowing Jacksonville. And so, yeah, it was more or less a teaching mechanism to see, what it felt like to put myself out there.
That's pretty cool. So, all right, cool. So you're junior year, you're starting to get to know people. And that's also the time that people start thinking of college or career steps. So at like that time that you started to kind of, get a little bit better with people, what did you think that you were going to do? Or like, what was like your plan at that time?
Yeah. My plan was really just to get out of Jacksonville, to go do something different. And I wanted to go down to South Florida. That was like my thing. I wanted to go to FAU. I wanted to be down in Delray Beach. It just seemed like a cool spot, right? So I ended up applying to almost every college in the state of Florida, except for Florida State and University of Florida.
Okay.
So I just wanted some options. And the funny thing is, when I graduated or was about to graduate, I still didn't really know where I wanted to go to college. I got accepted to a couple places, and ultimately I decided to go down to Gainesville, which I didn't even apply for the college, right? So you don't get into college if you don't apply for it. So I ended up saying, hey, let me go down there and do some just go to Santa Fe, which was a community college, really good feeder school for UF. A lot of professors there are UF grads or were professors at UF. So it's a great program. And oddly enough, right? Like I decided to go to a place I wasn't even thinking of 2 years prior. And I think that's part of the problem with college is some people just really don't know. And then you're kind of stuck with a hurry up decision. And at 16, I didn't really know what I wanted at 18. Hell, at 17, I didn't even know what I wanted at 18. So I think there is some flaws right there. I could go on and on about college and a lot of the issues I have with it. But we don't have to go into all that today.
But dude, so, all right, you're coming out of high school. You're like, all right, I want to go to somewhere in South Florida. But like in your mind, like truly, like what did you believe was like at that time? Like, I don't know if you remember or not, but like, what did you believe was going to happen? Did you believe you were going to go into business? Did you believe you were going to be a doctor? Did you believe you were going to like go to school for a while? Like, what did you like really think was going to happen?
Well, I think this is very typical, at least for my personality type, is to need variety. That's still one of my number one. And so I really didn't know. I went from pre-med to art, and then my buddy talked me into doing construction management. And that seemed like a very logical route to go because I'd been around it all my life. And, you can go into, we can get into UF this way. And so I don't know. I really didn't choose based on what I really knew I wanted, because ultimately I wanted to be an entrepreneur, own my own business. But I had to go to college. That was kind of the thing that my parents were pushing me to, even though they were both entrepreneurial. So, I was just kind of pushed into it, and I didn't really want to go, but I enjoyed it. I didn't really apply myself all that much in school, right? Like I socialized. That's what I did for 4.5 years. And so I knew I wanted to be a business owner. I knew I wanted to do something on my own. But when you're in college, you kind of have to make those decisions, right? You're like, all right, what am I going to do this semester? And so you kind of get pushed into a decision-making process that if you're not fully formed and really know what you want in life, you're kind of making decisions based on, I don't know, information, external forces. So it was tough for me actually to figure out what I wanted to do in college. And I stuck with one thing though. I did construction management. I stuck it out, and I graduated with a bachelor's of science. So
What school finally from UF, you said?
Yeah. And then I transferred, didn't even get into UF because I didn't have the 4.0, right? I was socializing. And then I ended up getting into the program back in Jacksonville at UNF, which is where a lot of people go when they don't get into UF. It's a very top-rated school. I actually got a better job opportunity out of UNF than some of my other friends out of UF. So I can't say enough about that program. It's a great program. It opened up a massive door for me right out of college.
What do you think was like the biggest like life lesson from like finishing college? I heard you in the beginning mention like, I got a lot of, college is not my favorite thing. I got a couple issues with like the system, but like, let's say we were to pick out some of the good things. Like, what would you say was some of the good stuff that you learned from college experience or whatever? Yeah,
I think the main thing for me was competing for attention, competing for opportunity. Yeah. Because we were all in school in class together, but when that job fair hit, which I went to 3 of them, it was my turn, right? It was my turn to go out there and sell myself better than everybody else in my class of 400 people to get the best opportunity. So for me, it was like, how do I learn sales? How do I dress the part? How do I say what I need to say to get the best opportunity? They're going to look at my GPA, whatever. I'm only going to fit, for them, if they want a high GPA guy, I'm not the guy. But if they look at, full picture, I was their guy. So that's kind of where there was a competitive edge, I felt like, in the job placing. It wasn't so much the schooling and what I learned, because I knew everything we would go into would be more or less learned on the job, right? It would be like exactly what I need to know for that specific role. So I wasn't too worried about if I didn't ace every class.
Oh, cool. No, that's dope. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to make out of it, right? Like college, there's so many opinions and people like, it's good, it's bad, but I definitely think there's so much good in it. If you're thinking about it the right way, like if you're already going into college, like, I hate this place, whatever, probably don't do it, if it's not the right fit.
Right.
But if you go into it like, man, there's competition, there's people I can meet, professors, there's like, I could join like certain clubs or whatever, dude, then you can get a pretty good like ROI on your time and on your investment in college, I think.
Yeah, I think where it's really flawed is that you roll right into college out of high school. Here's what I think would be perfect. I think that they should put together a 4-6 month program where you have to select 4 different industries or 4 different job positions, and you go intern at each one of those for 6 months. And when you're done, you go after whatever that degree is, or you go do something completely different out of those 4 things. But now you're saving yourself a lot of time, a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe after the first 1 or 2, you're like, I love this, and you go straight into college. But give people an opportunity to go see what it's like in the real world, and then go invest 4.5 years of your life and money.
That makes sense. All right, like
right?
that. Yeah.
I mean, that
you're going to run against Trump now or what?
I don't know, man. That's just what makes logical sense to me. I know I had chosen something way different if I had that. And I guarantee you so many people would.
Yeah.
And if you know you want to be a doctor, go intern for 6 months. You still love it. You're in college faster than everybody else. Yeah. You're in there 6 months later.
That's it. No, that's pretty – I definitely think there's there should be some kind of grace period. Like there's different cultures that they take a year off to kind of figure things out or whatever. Yeah. If you do like a year off without any structure, I think you get lost in that year off and never come back. But I think some structure, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool, man. So like you finished up college, a construction degree. Yeah. When was fast forward like a bit. So like, when was the moment that you're like, okay, I did college. I've gotten a little bit better with people. I'm not so like shy anymore. Like I know I want to do something. When was the moment that you're like, dude, I need to start something on my own, or I want to focus on business, or I want to, create my own business opportunity? Like when was that? Was it a moment? Was it a time span?
Dude, it was a couple months, excuse me, a couple months into my employment when I was out in Arizona. I started talking to a buddy of mine, and he was buying rental properties. And I said, Todd, man, this cannot be the rest of my life. Just is not going to be. I got to figure out a segue. And so it was when I got fired from my job 18 months into, being employed in my first career, is when I said, that was it. That's what needed to happen. I didn't want to quit, right? I'd done all this stuff and moved all the way out to Arizona, and I didn't want to quit. But I got fired, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Wow. So it was at that moment where I came home, I spent some time with family, and I just started figuring out what that was going to look like. Yeah. So, dude, getting fired allowed me the freedom, right, to go and do what I wanted to do, which I would have eventually quit, but it definitely sped that up a little bit.
Yeah. And why'd you get fired, man? Can you say it on camera?
Well, no, I mean, they knew there was a disconnect. They knew just based on the way I thought, the way I interacted with people, the way that I just really rebelled against things that they were asking me to do, because I was always looking for a better way to do them, or this doesn't make sense. I think we should do it this way. It just wasn't a good fit, and they knew that. And we didn't end on bad terms. It was just like, hey man, I don't think this is for you. And I said, I agree. Yeah.
That must be a pretty scary moment because you're out of college, so you must have been getting paid pretty good.
Yeah, I was making a ton of money. I had a bunch of money stacked up.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I made very, very good money. I was fortunate that so I had some seed money to go start some other stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that's important. Everyone that's listening, burn the ships, but don't burn the ships until you got at least a little bit sitting on the island so that you can survive.
No, for sure. I would say that's like where like Dave Ramsey and some of these more conservative financial gurus or, whatever, I like their philosophy of, have 3 to 6 months saved up of your living expenses.
Yeah.
No matter how aggressive you are in marketing or in business or in life, whatever, you still should have like some kind of safety net, at least 3 to 6 months, 3 at the minimum, 6 if you're killing it. And because, at least now you can play. Maybe you can go live at home or live with a friend for a couple months and use that money to figure things out.
Right.
And all right, now what took you from that world? You're done with that. What took you from there to real estate? What I would be curious to know, like, was it people? Like, were you influenced by people, or were you influenced by like, some education you got in school? Were you influenced by like a mentor? Like, how did you get from like, I got no job, I got some money to make shit happen? How did you get into that real estate world?
Yeah. So what I really wanted to do in life and what I still love today is architecture. So when I was in school, I would sketch. I'd sketch these skyscrapers. I'd sketch the Sydney Opera House. I like sketch these awesome, buildings. And so I wanted to do that. And so I thought, okay, so that's real estate. So I have to go learn about real estate. And then I learned what wholesaling was while reading books and figuring out how do you get started? What's the easiest way? How do you get through, how do you get past raising $1 million for one project or whatnot? Well, you could do the wholesaling right out the gate and do it very on a small budget like I did when I first started. So that was really it, man. I still want that dream. I still want to build skyscrapers one day. I still want to have just massive wealth through real estate and being able to use my creative side to generate a lot of wealth, not only for myself, but people around me.
Yeah, that's super dope. So and who was like the first person who like introduced you to wholesaling, or how'd you get introduced to wholesaling?
Dude, I read the manual that Ron LeGrand put together in the late 90s.
That's old school.
Yeah, OG. The OG, yeah. Yeah, it was the video cassette tape you listened to, and then you had the booklet. So that's where it started. And I was able to meet him 2 months ago. Sit in a room, I sat at the table right next to him at Family Reunion, which is Matt Andrews' group for influencers and content providers in the space. And it was pretty surreal, man. I'm sitting right next to the guy that I read the first book and understood what all this was about.
He started I don't know how much, but he started a lot of real estate careers of people.
Yeah,
rushing
totally.
It. Yeah, he was a pioneer, man. He was one of the first guys. And what's he doing now, by the way, since you were sitting there with him?
His education business is continuing to go. He's still buying a lot of seller financing deals here in Jacksonville and other parts. That's kind of one of his niche markets.
Seller finance.
Yeah.
Those like creative structured deals.
All creative deals. Yeah, just solving the problem. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And he does it through like this creative ass method. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. So you started there. And how was your first deal? How'd you get your first deal?
I got my first deal off a bandit sign, man.
What?
Yeah. I did bandit signs. Like that was my thing. I didn't have much money. I was in grad school when I started this business. I came back home, started grad school, and then started the business. And I mean, I had no money. I was living at my buddy's place. He was very nice, and he knew that I was like starting all over, and I had, paying for grad school. So I rented one room from him. It was like $350, all inclusive, right? At a small townhouse. And I started right there at his kitchen table. And it was like, this small, little. I went and bought 200 bandit signs would put 100 of them out on Friday nights.
Shit.
And just pray every time, hey, come on, just bring me a deal, let that phone ring.
And then you got a call, you went on an appointment and got a deal like that?
Yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
And I'll say this, man, like my mom was a big pusher in that. She was like, hey, go and do this. And like, she really pushed me because I was reading the books. I was a guy who was reading. I read the entire thing. I knew exactly how to do it, but it still took me a couple months to like go buy some signs and go start sticking them in there. So she really pushed, and that was really the start of a lot of this. Yeah.
Interesting, man. So like,
yeah, dude.
Kind of like from the start, like you're in high school, you started off like kind of shy. I don't think you had like bad grades, but you just didn't have like a 4.0. So what were you like?
I was like a 3.5
average student?
Yeah, I mean, I was average to above average.
Average to above average, yeah.
Yeah,
I read this thing that A students at a high school on average become teachers. B students become like executive, and C students become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And DNFs, no one talks about those, but
they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a huge survey. And there's a lot more details than we're saying, but the overall picture was that. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, but that's because you really have to be, as an entrepreneur or even an executive, you got to be able to have other skill sets besides having a very quick, smart brain. You have to have communication. You have to have intuition. So. Yeah. And you can't, those aren't things you can really get taught in high school.
Dude, and the reason I asked you like those questions, because there's a lot of young people listening. There's a lot of younger people who are now wanting to start businesses because of all the information. And I love that. I'm so for that. But there's also a lot of like coming with starting businesses and coming with trying to increase your like level in monetary, right? In finances, and trying to do better, make more sales, etc. There's a lot of limiting beliefs, and some limiting beliefs I feel, and it happened to me and it happens to a lot of us, is like, but I wasn't the smartest one in high school, or like, my parents aren't, multimillionaires, or my parents didn't teach me this. So like, what would you say to those people that are like, didn't grow up in a place that is not favorable for a good like entrepreneur or business person, so to speak? Like, what would you say?
I just think hard work and pushing through objection and pushing through hurdles trumps everything. I mean, if you don't quit, you can't lose. Yeah. I mean, you really can't. So if you go through life thinking that just because I was raised in a, average or below average income, there's more millionaires, there's more successful people that come from those kind of hard times, because you really see what hard looks like. When you start doing business, things just aren't as hard as what they seem. And there's typically always a solution to the problem. So I don't think that there's anything stopping somebody from not growing up wealthy, because I was around wealthy people because I played golf, but I wasn't a wealthy person. My family was not wealthy, but they wanted me to be around people that were, because I was, that's where I was going to grow the most. So that's the other part. Get around other people that are doing more. Look for vertical ladders. I was telling my brother that today. Look for the vertical, not the horizontal. Don't look around your friend group or what other people are doing around you, because that doesn't matter. You're always going to need to look upwards and be finding out how you can climb that ladder up. And then the way you do that is that you relentlessly give to those people, and you take nothing in return besides whatever they're willing to give.